There's a kind of news that gets me because it is not just about the roster. It is about trust. After everything Drake Maye has had to carry, the Patriots are looking at 4 questions that could shift the whole feel of the season. Who protects? Who brings heat? Who survives camp? And who got disrespected before even showing it in Foxborough? Today is not empty hype. It is about watching New England try to turn scars into answers. Hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me where you see the biggest turnaround signal. The Alijah Vera-Tucker situation hits me because he is exactly the kind of gamble that never lets a fan fully relax. You see the talent, you see the contract, you see the need on the offensive line, and you want to say, there it is. New England is finally putting real weight behind protecting the quarterback. Then the injury history creeps back into your mind, and your chest tightens a little. Because in Foxborough, fans have watched too many promises turn into problems when the body could not stay with the plan. The Patriots were not quiet about this. They moved Jared Wilson to center, opened up the left guard spot, signed Vera-Tucker to a 3-year, $42 million deal, and basically said, if he is healthy, he can become a core piece of this offensive rebuild. And I respect the aggression. After a season where the 2025 line was remembered for both its growth and its painful postseason breakdowns, there was no way to pretend everything had already been fixed. Vera-Tucker, when healthy, is a different kind of player. He has the strength to move people in the run game, the movement skills to win in space, and the first-round pedigree. He made the all-rookie team in 2021, came back in 2024 to start 15 games, and we are not talking about some average player just fighting to hang on. We are talking about a guard who, in the best version of this, changes the body of the line from the inside. But the key word is still right there: body. Achilles, torn triceps again, and the shadow of a lost 2025 season. You cannot treat that like a small footnote. The per-game active roster bonuses in the contract show New England knows exactly where the risk sits. The team is paying for the ceiling, but it is also protecting itself against the availability question. And still, I cannot view this move through pure fear. The reports that he is on track, feeling good, present for the work, and moving toward being ready for training camp change the whole temperature. Because if Vera-Tucker gets on the field, locks down the left side, and lets Drake Maye breathe inside the pocket, this signing stops feeling like a nervous bet and starts feeling like a real statement of ambition. The Patriots are not trying to build some cute little line. They are trying to make sure the season is not decided by pressure crashing into the quarterback's lap. And to me, that is the kind of risk a serious franchise has to face with its eyes open. And since the first conversation is about protecting the plan, the second one comes from the other side of the trenches: how New England finds pressure without leaning only on the obvious names. K'Lavon Chaisson was the reminder last year, a player who arrived on a cheap deal after failing to become what people expected when he entered the league, and then suddenly put up 10.5 sacks across the regular season and playoffs. That is not small. That is a staff finding value where a lot of people had already moved on. Chaisson is with the Commanders now, and the Patriots have to ask if there is another version of that story somewhere on the market. That is where Josh Paschal enters as a possible name. It is not a headline that breaks the internet. It is not the kind of move that makes a rival panic in the first second. But it is exactly the type of player Mike Vrabel can look at and think, size, strength, experience, still only 26. Maybe there is something to bring back here. Paschal was a second-round pick by the Lions in 2022. In 3 years, including the regular season and playoffs, he had 69 tackles and 5 sacks. Then he missed all of 2025 after back surgery and became available in March. So the debate is not whether he walks in as a savior. The debate is whether he can become physical depth in an edge room, still searching for more firmness. Dre'Mont Jones came in to bring more size on the edge. Jesus was taken in the second round, but he remains unsigned. Elijah Ponder and Braden Swinson are internal options the team wants to develop. Still, when you look at the AFC, at the quarterbacks New England will have to knock down, at what a Vrabel defense demands, the question stays alive. Why not take one more controlled swing? I like the idea when it is handled the right way. Paschal cannot be sold as the main answer. He would be a smart attempt to add weight to the rotation, create competition, and maybe pull value out of a player whose best chapter has not happened yet. And if there is a coach who understands that edge play is not only about sacks, it is Vrabel. Setting the edge, walking a tackle back, closing down the run, keeping contained, wearing down an offensive line. All of that wins football games too. No glamour, just work. And honestly, that fits what the Patriots need to become again. While Paschal would be an attempt to find outside value, Quintayvious Hutchins is a much rawer internal fight. 7th round, jersey number 45, edge or outside linebacker, out of Boston College. And when you see that profile, a lot of people have the same first reaction. special teams, camp body, maybe practice squad. But that is where training camp usually separates the guy drafted to fill a spreadsheet from the guy who actually makes a coaching staff pay attention. Hutchins does not arrive with a resume that forces him onto the roster. He had 43 college games, 16 starts, 72 tackles, 5.5 sacks, and 2 interceptions. He also had that interesting detail where he briefly moved to offense as a tight end in 2022 before going back to defense. Does that show versatility? Maybe. But in the NFL, what will really decide it is whether he can turn body, hands, and discipline into trustworthy snaps. The good part is that he does not look lost against the run. He is shorter, compact, added weight after the combine, has active hands, tackles well, and does not usually fly in out of control on every play. For a young edge defender, that matters because a lot of guys try to win with hero ball and end up opening a lane. Hutchins, at least from the profile, understands that the edge is responsibility too, not just explosion. And there is another path that cannot be ignored: special teams. He played on 5 units at Boston College. For a 7th rounder trying to survive in New England, that might be the breath that keeps the door open. The bottom of the Patriots roster is not a contest for pretty potential. It is usefulness. It is trust. It is who can put on a uniform Sunday without forcing the coordinator to hide him. But the concern is obvious too. He is smaller for the position, does not have some wild athletic trait, did not produce sacks at a level that screams instant impact, and as a pass rusher, he can still get stuck when the first contact does not work. If the tackle gets his hands into him, he needs counters that do not consistently show up yet. On top of that, 8 penalties in 2025 turn on a light no coach wants to see. That is why I see Hutchins as one of those stories that does not need exaggeration to be interesting. He is on the bubble, yes, but there is a real path. Win on special teams, show discipline against the run, cut down the penalties, and prove he can execute a small role without cracking the system. In Foxborough, a lot of careers have started like that. No red carpet, no giant promise, just a player doing the dirty work until the coach cannot cut him. That is his fight. And after talking about risk, recovery, and survival, we get to the part that gets a fan's blood hot. A.J. Brown arriving in New England and still being treated like he is just another big name on a list. Pete Prisco put Brown at number 64 in CBS Sports Top 100 as the 7th wide receiver on the list. And I'm going to say this as a fan. Rank players however you want, but there is a difference between evaluating by position and minimizing the impact this guy can have in New England. Brown is not coming to Foxborough as a luxury piece. He is coming in as the #1 weapon Drake Maye needed to turn good moments into constant fear for defenses. His track record says everything. Over 1,000 yards in every season except 2021, when he missed 4 games with an injury. 3-time Pro Bowler, physical, explosive, a receiver who wins through contact, changes coverage, pulls safeties, and opens the field for Kayshon Boutte, Romeo Doubs, and everybody around him. And there is an emotional layer I think the league is underestimating. Brown is reunited with Mike Vrabel, the coach who was in Tennessee when he was drafted in 2019 and helped at the start of that rise. Now he comes to his childhood team to play with a quarterback already carrying huge expectations, with a chance to deliver something New England has barely had over the last 6 years. A 1,000-yard receiver who looks like a true WR1. So you are telling me 63 players come before him, 6 receivers are above him, and he is buried in the second half? Fine. Rankings are opinions. But thank you for the fuel. Because if there is one thing opponents should not want, it is A.J. Brown entering the season with one more reason to prove a point. And this story is not only about Brown, it is about how people see the Patriots. A lot of people looked comfortable when New England was sitting near the bottom of the league. They wanted this rebuild to last years, maybe decades, like Foxborough had somehow lost the right to come back fast. But now Drake Maye has Brown, Doubs, Boutte, an offensive line trying to get stronger, and Vrabel rebuilding the identity. The noise changes. Foxborough crew, show up in the comments with your chest out. If Brown turns that number 64 into fuel, which AFC defense is going to enjoy facing this offense? Because when I look at this combination, I see more than a future stat line. I see a receiver with wounded pride, a quarterback on the rise, and a franchise tired of hearing that its time has passed. Respect the Patriots, because this duo can put fear back on the schedule. When you pull all of this together, the thread is simple. New England is trying to trade fragility for answers. Vera-Tucker has to turn health into protection. A possible project like Paschal could add weight to the rotation. Hutchins is trying to survive through the details. And A.J. Brown got exactly the kind of disrespect great players tend to store away. If you want every Foxborough signal without the noise, subscribe to Patriots Club fans, hit the like button, and stay right here. The season has barely even started, but the fight for respect is already on the field.